If you've been feeling more pressure, burning, or discomfort every time you go to the bathroom, there's something your body is trying to tell you. Hemorrhoids don't flare up out of nowhere, and they don't get worse without a cause. In many cases, the real reason is something most people never pay attention to: the type of stool you're passing every day. The shape, consistency, and texture of your bowel movements matter more than you imagine, and they can determine whether your hemorrhoids stay calm or become painfully inflamed. Most people blame stress, spicy foods, or long hours of sitting, but the truth is much more direct. Hard, dry, compact stool, the kind that comes out in small, separate pieces or feels like you're pushing out something rigid, applies intense pressure inside the anal canal. That pressure stretches the veins, irritates the tissue, and keeps the inflammation active. And if you're experiencing that kind of stool regularly, there's a reason your symptoms are getting worse instead of better. I'm a doctor, and today, here on Relief Health, I want to show you something essential. A specific type of stool is one of the main factors that worsen hemorrhoids. Not a food, not a habit, not something random, but the actual consistency of your stool. It tells you exactly what is happening inside your digestive system, whether your body is hydrated, whether your intestines are moving properly, and whether the veins in that area are under more stress than they can handle. If your stool is coming out dry, hard, or in small pellets, that's a sign that your colon is absorbing too much water. Your digestion is struggling, and your intestinal muscles are working against resistance. When stool like that moves through the anal canal, it scrapes and stretches tissue that is already sensitive. It forces your veins to handle far more pressure than they were designed for, and that pressure is the fuel behind the burning, swelling, itching, and pain that so many people live with silently. And here's something even more important: ignoring these signs doesn't make the problem go away. The longer this type of stool continues, the more the inflammation grows. The strain becomes routine, the veins weaken, and the discomfort becomes a part of your daily life, but it doesn't have to be. Stay with me through this video, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly why this type of stool makes hemorrhoids worse, how your body reacts to it, and most importantly, what you can do to fix it naturally. Relief begins with understanding, and today, that understanding starts with the shape of your stool. When people hear the word stool, they often think only about digestion or diet. But when you suffer from hemorrhoids, your stool becomes much more than a simple bodily function. It becomes a direct indicator of how much pressure and irritation your veins are experiencing. And the truth is that one specific type of stool creates far more damage than any other. It's the kind that is dry, hard, compact, and breaks into small pieces as it comes out. The kind that looks like tiny rocks or pellets. The kind that forces you to strain even if you don't realize you're straining. This type of stool doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of a gradual imbalance. Not drinking enough water, eating too little fiber, being stressed for long periods, ignoring the natural urge to go, or simply living a lifestyle where your intestines move slower than they should. Every one of these factors sends the same message to your colon: remove more water, slow down movement, and compress what's inside. And that's how these dry stools form. But the danger isn't just the dryness, it's the texture. Hard, fragmented stool loses its natural flexibility. Instead of moving through the rectum smoothly, it scrapes, pushes, and presses against tissue that is already delicate. It behaves like a rough object in a place designed for gentle, lubricated movement. And every time it scrapes or stretches, the veins underneath that tissue feel the impact. Another hidden part of this process is retention. When stool sits in the colon for too long, whether because you're constipated, dehydrated, anxious, or ignoring the urge to go, the body pulls even more water out of it. What starts as a manageable piece of stool becomes something much denser and harder, and once it dries, it doesn't soften again on its own. By the time it reaches the anal canal, it has become the exact type of stool that triggers a flare-up or worsens inflammation. And here's something most people never realize. The more painful your bowel movements become, the more you tend to avoid going to the bathroom. And the more you avoid, the drier and harder the stool becomes. It's a cycle that traps thousands of people every single day in a pattern of worsening inflammation, all rooted in the consistency of their stool. So when we talk about the type of stool that makes hemorrhoids worse, we're not talking about color or smell. We're talking about structure. Stool that is too dry, too compact, too difficult to pass. Stool that forces your body to push harder. Stool that increases vein pressure with every second you spend trying to eliminate it. But there's good news. Once you understand why this type of stool forms, you can reverse the process. You can soften it, reshape it, and guide your body back into a natural rhythm where bowel movements are not an act of force, but an act of flow. And that is exactly what we're going to explore next. What happens inside your body when this stool reaches the anal canal and why the physical response is so intense. To understand why this type of stool makes hemorrhoids worse, you need to picture what happens inside your body, the moment that dry, compact mass reaches the end of the digestive tract. The anal canal is lined with a delicate mucosa, thin, soft, and meant to protect, not endure friction. Beneath this surface lie the hemorrhoidal veins, small vascular cushions that help seal the canal and support healthy bowel movements. When everything is balanced, you barely even know they exist. But when pressure builds, they become one of the most sensitive parts of your body. Now imagine those veins trying to handle stool that doesn't glide but scrapes, stool that doesn't bend but pushes, stool that forces its way through like a rough object in a narrow space. With every millimeter it moves, it irritates the tissue, stretches the canal, and hits the veins directly. That contact alone is enough to spark inflammation. But what intensifies everything is the strain. Straining is one of the most damaging movements for hemorrhoids. You may think you're only applying a little force, but internally, that small effort magnifies into a wave of pressure that compresses the anal veins. As they swell and struggle against that pressure, blood begins to pool. The tissue around them heats up. The canal becomes tight, reactive, and inflamed. And the next time hard stool passes through, it meets an even more sensitive surface, making the cycle stronger. The more irritated the tissue becomes, the more it tries to protect itself. It swells to cushion the area, but that swelling reduces space, which makes the passage even more difficult. The veins fill with blood in an attempt to repair the irritation, but that increased blood volume actually contributes to more pressure, more friction, and more discomfort. Small tears begin to form, microscopic fissures that create sharp pain and sometimes light bleeding. And because the body recognizes this as damage, it activates more inflammation in an attempt to heal, which only adds to the sensitivity. Another silent part of this reaction is the involuntary tightening of the anal muscles. Pain triggers the muscles to contract, as if trying to shield the area from further irritation. But this tightening works against you. It narrows the canal and makes the passage harder, which forces even more pressure on the veins when the next bowel movement comes. Many people don't realize that their body is stuck in this loop. Pain leads to tension. Tension makes stool harder to pass, and hard stool worsens hemorrhoids. But here is the most important thing. None of this is permanent. The body responds to what it encounters. When the stool passing through is dry and hard, everything tenses, inflames, and reacts. But when the stool becomes softer, smoother, and easier to eliminate, that entire cycle can calm down. The pressure decreases, the veins relax, the tissue heals, and the inflammation finally has a chance to fade. And that is where relief begins, not in fighting the symptom, but in changing what causes the body to react this way. In the next part, we'll talk about exactly that. How to naturally change the type of stool your body forms so that you break the cycle of strain and inflammation for good. The good news is that your body isn't working against you. It isn't trying to create pain or make your life harder. It's responding to what you give it every single day. And the moment you start giving it what it truly needs, the type of stool that has been hurting you begins to change, sometimes quicker than you expect. Everything starts with hydration. Your colon's job is to absorb water, but when your body is dehydrated, it takes more than it should. That's what turns stool into those small, hard pellets that scrape and strain. When you drink enough water throughout the day, you change the entire environment inside your intestines. The colon doesn't have to pull so much fluid from your stool, and what forms is softer, smoother, and far easier to pass. A simple habit, drinking consistently, becomes one of the strongest tools against inflammation. But hydration alone doesn't shape your stool. It needs structure, it needs volume, and that comes from fiber. We often think of fiber as something we only need when we're constipated, but the truth is that your stool is made of fiber. It's the foundation of a healthy bowel movement. When you give your body natural sources of fiber, you help the stool retain water, gain softness, and maintain a form that moves gently through the anal canal. Fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, these foods behave like a natural sponge inside your digestive system, holding moisture and releasing it slowly as the stool travels. And there's another key element that most people overlook: healthy fats. Without them, the stool may be hydrated but still dry on the surface. Healthy fats act like internal lubrication, gentle, natural, and essential. They help everything slide more easily, reducing friction, reducing irritation, and protecting the veins from the strain that keeps them inflamed. A small amount of avocado, olive oil, nuts, or eggs creates a noticeable difference in the way your intestines move. Movement plays a deeper role than people imagine. Your intestines don't move independently from the rest of your body. They follow your rhythm. When you walk, stretch, climb stairs, or simply get up regularly throughout the day, you stimulate intestinal motion. You prevent stool from sitting too long and becoming too dry. Even small bursts of movement send a powerful message to your digestive system: keep things moving. And then there's stress, the quiet factor that shapes everything. A stressed body tightens muscles without you realizing it, including the muscles around your rectum. Tight muscles slow down transit, compress the colon, and make your stool harder. When you slow your breathing, unwind your shoulders, and give yourself a moment of calm, your digestive system receives permission to relax. That relaxation softens your stool from the inside out. When all these factors work together, hydration, fiber, healthy fats, movement, and calm, your body starts to shift from strain to flow. The stool becomes softer, more continuous, easier to eliminate. And as the stool improves, the pressure on your hemorrhoids decreases, the veins begin to relax, the tissue begins to heal, and what once felt like an endless cycle of pain finally starts to fade. Soon, you'll see that the solution has nothing of there with forcing your body or living in fear of the next bowel movement. The solution is giving your body the conditions it needs to form stool that doesn't hurt you. And in the next part, you'll learn exactly how to turn these principles into a daily routine, one that keeps your bowel movements soft, gentle, and consistent, so your hemorrhoids finally get the chance to calm down. Now that you understand why this type of stool forms and how it harms your body, it's time to bring all of this into your daily life. Because the truth is simple, your body responds to patterns. And when your routine supports softness, hydration, and movement, your stool transforms. And when your stool transforms, the pressure on your hemorrhoids finally begins to release. Your day starts the moment you wake up, long before you make your first meal. And the very first message you send to your digestive system is whether there will be enough water for it to work properly. When you drink water in the morning before anything else, you're telling your colon that it can hydrate your stool instead of drying it out. That first glass doesn't just quench thirst, it wakes up the intestines, activates peristalsis, and prepares your body to form stool that moves without force. As the morning goes on, your digestive system begins to process what you ate the day before. This is when the texture of your stool is most shaped. When you give your body natural foods, something fresh, something with real fiber, your intestines immediately respond. They gather moisture, build softness, and create the kind of stool that doesn't break apart, doesn't scrape, and doesn't trigger inflammation. The beginning of the day sets the tone for everything that follows. Movement plays a quiet but powerful role. Your intestines mirror your body's rhythm. When you sit for hours, your digestion slows, but when you stand, walk, or move gently from time to time, your intestines move too. Those small interruptions in a sedentary day are enough to keep stool from drying out, and enough to prevent the kind of stagnation that turns mild constipation into the worst type of stool for hemorrhoids. Your body doesn't need intense workouts. It simply needs reminders to keep flowing. And then comes the moment most people rush through: eating. When you eat quickly or under stress, your intestines tighten. Tension slows digestion, squeezes moisture out of the stool, and creates a chain reaction that ends in dryness and pressure. But when you eat calmly with time to breathe and chew, the digestive system relaxes. That relaxation is what allows your stool to form with the softness and shape that protects your hemorrhoids instead of hurting them. Throughout the day, hydration continues to matter. Not in big gulps once or twice, but little by little. Water that keeps your stool soft from the inside, water that keeps your intestines working with ease. And as the evening arrives, the choices you make determine how your body will prepare your stool for the next morning. Heavy meals, fried foods, or late-night eating make this process harder. But lighter meals, warm dishes, simple foods, those help your body build a bowel movement that can pass without effort. And then there is the moment of going to the bathroom. It should never be rushed. It should never be forced. A bowel movement is not supposed to be an act of willpower. It's supposed to be an act of release. When you sit down and let your body take its time, when you don't push or strain or hold your breath, you protect your veins, you protect your tissue, you protect your healing. Your routine doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need to overhaul your life. What matters is consistency. Gentle, steady, day after day. Because every time you hydrate, every time you move, every time you give yourself a calm moment, you create the conditions for your body to form the type of stool that finally lets inflammation fade. And now, in the final part of this video, you're going to see exactly how all of this comes together. How this understanding becomes a long-term transformation that brings relief, healing, and a new relationship with your body. Now that you've followed this journey from understanding to action, you can finally see something that most people never realize. Hemorrhoids don't get worse simply because of bad luck, age, or genetics. They get worse because the type of stool your body produces is sending constant pressure into a part of your body that wasn't designed to handle it. And when that pressure becomes routine, so does the inflammation, the swelling, and the pain. But the most important part of everything you learn today is this. Nothing about this process is permanent. Your body is not stuck. It's not damaged beyond repair. It's responsive. It's adaptive. It's waiting for the moment you stop forcing it to work against dryness, against tension, against strain, and begin giving it what it needs to move with ease. When your stool becomes softer and more continuous, your hemorrhoids finally get a break from the constant irritation. The veins stop swelling. The tissue stops tearing. The canal stops tightening. The inflammation stops being triggered every time you go to the bathroom. And instead of living in a cycle of pain, your body enters a cycle of healing. This transformation doesn't come from a miracle product or a complicated routine. It comes from understanding, from seeing the connection between water, fiber, movement, stress, and the simple shape of your stool. It comes from choosing day after day to give your digestive system the conditions it needs to protect you instead of hurting you. And that's why this message is so important. Because once you understand the real cause, you're no longer powerless. You no longer feel trapped in the pain. You begin to realize that the relief you've been searching for is not out of reach. It's already inside your body, waiting for the right conditions to surface. At Relief Health, we believe that knowledge is the first step toward healing. If this video helped you finally understand why your hemorrhoids have been getting worse and what you can do about it, consider sharing it with someone who might be going through the same struggle. Sometimes all a person needs is clarity. Sometimes relief starts with a single piece of information. And if you want to keep learning how to support your digestion, improve your gut health, and take care of your body in a natural, realistic way, subscribe to Relief Health. Every week we bring you new videos designed to help you heal, understand, and take control of your health. Remember this: change your stool, change the pressure, change the inflammation, and relief follows. Your body isn't working against you, it's working with you. You just needed to learn how to work with it too.